All right. Hello, everybody. We're going to give it about 30 seconds to a minute to allow any people that are slowly trickling in from coming from another meeting, and we will get started. All right. I think we are good to get started. All right. So, hello, everybody. My name is Mike Luttenberger. Um, I am a field CTO for Netrix today. I've covered the modern work, which covers modern work in AI. Just to kind of give you some background for me before we kind of jump in today of where I started or kind of my background is I started back in about 98, 99. I was a what's known as classic ASP developer at the time. And at the time, I got hold of, we were a Microsoft partner for the company I worked for back then, and we had got access to early software. One of them was called Dashboard. I thought it was really cool. I loaded it up on my work machine and I used it every day. I was writing web parts for it. Fast forward a few years, it ends up becoming SharePoint. So I've worked with SharePoint basically since the beginning, since before it was even SharePoint. Fast forward a few more years, I started working with what was then in 2003 called Groove. Fast forward a couple more years, turns to Mesh. Fast forward a couple more years, turns to SkyDrive, and now we know it as OneDrive. So I've also been working with that since before it was a product. And kind of what I cover today is think of all kind of the applications in M365. So Teams, Power Automate, the Viva suite, Sway, Microsoft Forms, Power Apps. I worked with all of those about a year before they released to the public. And also, again, have lots of experience with, other, deeper dives into things like I was on a small team a couple years ago working with Microsoft that was doing augmented reality in Power Apps before. Again, it's out there now, but this was kind of before it was ever a thing. So that was pretty cool. Same like I'll talk today a little bit about Loop. I started working with that before that was even Loop when it was called the Fluid Framework. And again, I just help customers, unlock capabilities, solve problems. I've worn many hats over the years from an end user to these products, trainer, developer, manager, team lead, architect, solutions architect. So, I cover governance of these things, security of these things, best practices of these things, how to deploy them, training on them, what training should be, done, workshops, proof of concepts, help customers with migrations, whether they're coming off of, Google or Box or Dropbox or some homegrown on-prem thing to M365 or even a tenant migration to that. I've been working with Copilot for almost a year now. Prior to Copilot, it was ChatGPT I was working with for about a year before that. So definitely been in the AI space. Um, I also do development for Apple's Vision Pro, which is their augmented reality spatial computing headset. Um, I live in Michigan, so I'm like 20 miles north of Detroit. I have two girls, one that just started high school this year, one that's in her last year of elementary school. So I'm kind of sitting in between not being cool and not knowing anything about life, to still being cool and knowing lots of things. So I figure I'm about 2 years away from completely knowing nothing, not being cool at all, and having knowledge of like an amoeba. So that's kind of on the track I think I'm going on. So this is kind of our agenda today. What we're going to get into again, we're going to talk about, kind of what is. We're going to kick it off as what again. I assume a lot of folks that are attending this already know what Copilot is. Since we're kind of talking about Wave 2, these are the new features that are coming, or some of them are already here, and I'll talk about that. But I give like a quick primer of what it is, right? So that we can kind of level set everybody. But this is kind of the agenda we're going to go through. We're going to talk about again the new additions that are in the Office apps, OneDrive agents. Again, that's the huge one. I think the coolest one, in my opinion, Copilots and SharePoint. Talk about Designer. I think that's relevant. Copilot pages. Talk about the mobile app real quick, and then some questions on that, and then of course the demo. We're gonna do some demos of this stuff because we need to see it, right? All right. So, what is Copilot, or how does Copilot vary from like a Chat GPT? So the big, in my opinion, kind of the big ones that are doing it is the two center ones, right? So we have the graph and the apps, right? So that's kind of where it varies from Chat GPT. But again, spoiler alert, it does use Chat GPT as one of the LLMs in the background. What is an LLM? Let's just start right there. It's basically artificial intelligence system. It's trained on tons of data, whether that's articles, Wikipedia entries, books, internet-based things. And again, these are models. They're huge. They're hundreds of millions, if not billions, of parameters to define their behavior of what you're asking, right? So that you could basically ask it something in a human like form, and it will respond back to you in human form. But again, it's not just a search result, right? Which we'll talk about that in 2 seconds. And the graph. So what's the graph, right? The graph is your stuff, right? It's your calendar, it's your email, it's your chats, your documents, meetings you have, people you talk to. Basically, it knows you. And one thing I usually do when I'll do like a demo for a customer of Copilot is one of the things I'll do in email is I will say, I'll do some email, but then I'll tell it to sound like me. And it will kind of change it to my tone, right? Of how I talk, how like usually I'll say, hey team, to everybody. So it starts it off by hey team with that. So it understands it because it looks at, your other emails and things like that. So it understands how you communicate and how you talk to people. Also, part of that is what's called the semantic index. Again, we won't get too deep in that, but what is that? It's really just conceptual understanding of what you're asking it versus a traditional keyword matching, right? Which is, to give you an example, if I was just using, let's say, SharePoint search, I would just say, what's my medical benefits? And it would most likely just look for the word benefits, and it would link me to either a site or it would link me to a document that has the word benefits in it. But if you were to ask that same thing to Copilot, it can respond to you what those things are, right? It's like, oh, if you have Blue Cross, like we have Blue Cross Blue Shield, and here's the different plans, right? So it has conceptual understanding of what you're asking it, and again, not just linking you to, a document or a site, and then just kind of ending it there. All right, so two kind of major announcements or big announcements that came out of the Wave 2 kind of conversation or Microsoft's talk on this is basically Copilot is out of preview, which again it has been since pretty much the point in time this came out. About last month it was out of preview. So there were lots of things you would sometimes run into where it just said like it it couldn't do something if you were asking it, or things like that, or just like one thing you had to have everything into a table. Though that is gone now, right? So now it is in general availability. It is very polished. Um, Again, that was probably the biggest complaint that I would say not only myself but other users had, is that it had to be in a table for it to do anything. Not the case anymore. It had to, it couldn't go cross sheets. It can do that now. And again, it's gotten more complex with what the formulas it does, like XLOOKUP and SUMIF. And again, Microsoft is going to continue to expand those. It's going to be constantly changing. A lot more visualizations can go into it, right? Asking it for different pivot tables and things like that. So it is leaps and bounds, in my opinion, from what it was, right? Now that it's out of preview. And again, it can also look at the text in there, which is also, again, a problem. Sometimes it would sometimes just look at the numbers and not understand the text. So it will look at that and ask it what you will, and it will help out. The next one is Excel with Python. Now again, that is um, as of right now, that's going to be in public preview, so it's not fully baked just yet. So if you are using it, you might run into a couple issues, like I said earlier, with some of the saying it couldn't do it, or maybe not doing it exactly how you anticipated it to do. But again, this is a huge breakthrough because this is just going to bring some more analytics, right, to not only Copilot but to Excel that you weren't really, if you were maybe a novice or maybe not that great with, maybe even Python or a developer, or basically you don't have to be a data analysis to do this anymore, right? So this kind of brings that into the fray of that, so that you as a user have a little bit more control over that. So yeah, so again, like I said, the text, interpreting customer reviews and text columns and things like that, and give you insights on that. Huge win, in my opinion, for Excel. This is, again, with all my customers that I talk to, Excel is kind of the big one that they're always wanting it to do great things. So this is kind of the next chapter. And one thing to note is, again, these are a lot of the things. Some of these things, like I said, I'll say like they're either in preview or they're coming, or they're already out. Some of them came out last month. But don't forget, Ignite is right around the corner, November 18th through 22nd in Chicago. So Microsoft has already said they're going to blow the lid off a lot of other things. And again, some of these things might come up, possibly out of preview by then. We don't know, but just keep that in mind. PowerPoint. So PowerPoint, this is another, big one I think that folks use, right? Again, to me, it's kind of one of those you either use PowerPoint a lot or you kind of don't. But one of the complaints that I had with PowerPoint prior was, again, it was very good at doing something for me if I was asking for it. And again, this is a true story. I actually had to give a Power Platform training session a couple weeks ago, and I had this deck that I used over and over and over again. I couldn't for the life of me, of course, me last minute, I went to go look at the deck and I couldn't find it anywhere, because it had been probably months before I had done it or last done it. So I was like, oh, so no problem. I just asked Copilot. I said I was very specific and pointed what I wanted, in the chat. I just said, hey, I need one on the Power Platform, and I need a slide for Power Pages, and I need, one for Power BI and Power Automate, and I want one slide for the Dataverse. And then it went and built it, and it was awesome because if I had to have done that from scratch, it would have taken me 8+ hours to do that, right? But I was able to do this and then just make some small tweaks, right, to certain things that I like to say or how I like to say them or how I like to present them. I was in and out in probably 20 minutes and got this deck done. But one thing I didn't like about that was just that, right? Like you give it this prompt and it just kind of dumps out this deck for you, and you kind of had no way of really changing it. Now enter narrative builder. So again, I'm gonna demo this today. But with narrative builder, what it does, instead of just putting it in text and just kind of chunking out and just boom, here's your deck, good luck. Now go ahead and tweak it. This allow basically you kind of still start off the same way with kind of what you were looking to do with it, but then it will kind of break out slide by slide and kind of show you like these are what we're going to talk about. You can start to rearrange the slides, or you can just pick one slide and say, no, I want this, right? And then it will go rearrange it versus doing the whole deck all over again. So that's awesome. Like I said, I've already used this. This is super helpful for me. This is cut even now. Had I had this, a few weeks or months ago, um, this would have cut that 20 minutes down to even less. I would assume with the way that Narrative Builder is. So Narrative Builder, very cool. We'll show it today. The second one is brand manager. So one thing is a lot of folks always want to know when I have these sessions, someone's always wants to know is, will it work with my corporate branding templates in PowerPoint? Yes, it will, 100%. That is not new. That has been there for a very long time in there. But what others have asked is getting access to assets, right? Company assets within there. So now this next thing I'm going to talk about is not new. It's actually been around for years, but now it's getting implemented into basically Copilot for Power App, and that's using your what's called your company's organizational asset library. So what is that? So basically, this is a library that sits in a SharePoint site that you designate. And what it will do is it allows marketing or any other arm of the company who's going to look at these things have a place to put their stuff, right? So they can create different file structures for different things. And it's kind of a fork in the road of two things. One, you have your Office templates, right? So when you fire up Office, it's going to look there and it's going to present the user with the approved templates, right, from your organization. That's what an organizational asset does. Also, it will have any imagery, right? That you might have in there or might you want to use, or you might have, very approved ones that you have to use. And to give you a real story of this, I had a customer that said anytime they do any branding, whether that's in SharePoint, whether that's in PowerPoint, the images always have to be basically black and white, and they have to be used as repository. So we set up the organizational assets for them. And then again, they were able to within SharePoint, it was a place for that when a user went to go create a new page or a newsletter or something and add an imagery to it, it would look at that and give them the list of this. And again, this was something that marketing could just keep throwing images over the course of the year or months or whatever in there, and it just auto populates and it's at the user's discretion to start using those things. So now that is coming into PowerPoint to where now, again, right now, if you're asking it to provide you an image, it's going to go out to the internet and pull in imagery. Again, those are all Creative Commons ones that it will use, but now you're going to have the ability, and this is coming next month or Q4, where you're actually able to pull all these assets from your organizational asset library within SharePoint. So that's huge. Again, bringing that company personalization down to PowerPoint, which again is huge. Again, this is one of the ones I use quite a bit, so I welcome it. Word, not. Too much has changed here in Word, but there is, and again, this is already available. This was pretty much launched right after the announcement of Wave 2. And that is basically now that you're working within Word, you're able to pull in other assets outside of it, right? You're able to pull in like other Word documents or PowerPoints you're going to want to pull data from, PDFs, encrypted documents, but also email and meetings, right? So you're able to pull all that stuff through the prompt within Word. Again, that wasn't something that was there a few months ago, but it's there now. It's out now. You can use this right now. So again, to me, this is a big time saver because again, it doesn't disrupt kind of your flow of, I'm in Word here, but now I have to go over here to get this thing and over here to get this thing. Now you're able to kind of pull all those things directly in there. So that's a huge win in my opinion. Prioritize my inbox. So this is again coming soon. It's late 2024. So if I were to guess, I'm sure there will probably be a little bit more or a deeper announcement around this at Ignite. But basically, what this is going to allow you to do is it's twofold. One, AI is going to, take over some of the things in your inbox and prioritize them to you, right? So you have control over this if you don't want it to do it or not, you can. But again, it's going to look at certain things that was email sent important. Um, it understands the context of your role. So if your manager or your boss sends you something, that's going to be more important, things like that. So again, that's going to be something that's coming. It's going to begin, kind of changing what is shown in your inbox based off of these priorities, and then what's coming later is to where you're actually going to be able to train it, right? So you're actually going to be able to say, I'm teaching Copilot on a topic or keywords or certain people, right? That you want. Again, maybe you're working on some project with the project team and there's a deadline coming up with it. You're going to be able to train Copilot to say basically anytime, project this name or these three people, let's say that I work with, sends an email, kind of put that to the top or make it a high priority for me. So again, this should be coming. It says, public preview on this will be in late 2024. So again, I'm anticipating something by the end of next month, November. Again, we're 2 days away from November. So that's kind of what I am seeing with that happening. And that's again going to be again a really cool one. And again, if you're not familiar with even what Outlook or Copilot for Outlook does, is again it can create some really great messages for you, right? So you can go in there and say like, hey, just tell my team like what a great job we did on the launch of said product, and then it will kind of make it, you can make it very formal or fun or things like that. So it really helps with kind of getting a really nicely crafted, professional email going. And then again, summarize your email. The story I love to give, and this is an absolute true one, is I was on this horrendous, like 80 plus back and forth with a thread with a customer, with a vendor, with some internal people back and forth on this for one very specific thing. But there was kind of a fork in the project, right? Where some of it was a network refresh and some of it was a tenant migration. And I only cared about the tenant migration stuff. So I went to Copilot and said, basically, give me just the summary of just the tenant migration stuff in my email, right? And that's exactly what it did. It went through and it pulled just those things out, and I was able to just focus on those things versus all the other emails that were going back and forth that, again, I was just part of the chain, but it really wasn't what I was, focused on with that. So again, Outlook is awesome for that. Teams. So again, this one is out now. So what I'm about to tell you is out. It is not new. It is a feature that's there now, a feature that's been asked for. Again, what is it? So it's basically you're allowed to ask Copilot things not only from the transcripts, in the chat, but also what's being presented right there. So it's kind of cross that. So again, before you had to kind of look at one or the other or ask one or the other, now you're able to just ask it, right? Anything in there, and it's going to traverse over whether it was transcript or someone was chatting something in there. So, you can say, like, hey, was there something I missed, or is any questions, or something like that that you might be looking for from a Teams meeting. All of that's going to be there now. It's not kind of an independent ask of Copilot to look through those things. It's going to look across the entire team meeting and extract that information right to you. So that's a big win too for Teams. But again, this is out right now. Okay, so OneDrive. This is the new introduction. This is out right now. I will actually demo this. So a couple things with this is we have kind of three new things brought into the fray here with the Wave 2. is one, ask about your files. So again, previously I would have to kind of open up, a document within my OneDrive and then ask it things about it, like a summary or whatever, right? Pertinent information from that document. No longer. You can just click on it within OneDrive. You don't have to open it at all, and you can ask questions away, or it will do some certain things for you right there. So that's great. You don't actually have to get into the document to do that to get the information you want. So I think that's super helpful. The next one I think is great. Is the compare the files, right? So again, on the back end of OneDrive, it's still SharePoint, right? OneDrive is SharePoint, SharePoint. Teams is SharePoint on the back end. So they all have the capability of versioning, right? So I can take this document and write over it and write over it, and I can go back and look at all the versions on there. But again, there's still folks that don't want to mess with that version and they want to make a copy of it and maybe make some changes and then put it in there. And again, sometimes that's problematic, sometimes it's not. But what this allows you to do is take both of those files and basically say, here's two files. Here was a copy. Here's the original. Here's a copy of what someone else did or made some modifications to it. Um, what's the difference, right? So it will go through and show you again without opening the document at all and show you basically here's the differences between these two documents. So again, I'm going to demo this. But again, this is a very cool one for me. I like this one. This one, like I said, it's out now. And I really like this one. And then the other one is summarize your files. Again, very similar to kind of asking about your files. Again, I don't have to go into it like I would before. Again, if I had like an RFP or something in there, I would go and open up the RFP and ask it to summarize it. Now I don't even have to open it. I could just ask Copilot directly in OneDrive, just summarize this document for me, and it will do it without actually opening it or getting into that document. So super helpful, super powerful, in my opinion. All right, agents. This is the big dog, right? This is, in my opinion, the biggest announcement from the Wave 2. That is, I think, will be the biggest thing to Copilot to date, in my opinion. So, what is it or why? Or let's kind of get into what it is, right? So, agents is what agents, there's kind of different flavors of agents. We're going to talk about those in the next couple slides. But basically, there's what I would almost call a self service agent, right? To where me as an individual user can select basically a SharePoint library or something like that and say, I want an agent out of this, something very simple. Again, we'll get more into the details in a second. Or I can get very complex with it, right? And get into more Copilot Studio, or again, kind of start off with something and then make it a little bit more complex. So agents is the most exciting thing, I think, to Copilot because it's going to do a lot of different things for you. But let's kind of talk about what those things are. All right. So first is, and again, this is out now. Um, this is in basically preview at the moment. Is basically we have business chat or biz chat agents. So you'll see it right there in my teams there. That right from here I can create a team. Basically an agent. What is an agent? Again, it's your personal co-pilot. It's whatever you want it to do. You kind of train it. Again, it's not going deep to do all these crazy things that you might, all these different asks you might have for it. But it's again a great service level. It's something that I think everybody in the organization should, you would want them to do, because this is going to help them out. And the idea behind this is that you're going to have hundreds of these different agents that are, each users are going to be able to make their own agent for their own work, right? Again, kind of think of this back in the day when you had like access databases, right? I had the ability to create my own kind of application, if you will, with my access database and my data. That same idea is true here, where you know, that users can create their own agents based off of whatever they want, whether it's looking for resumes or whatever. Again, I'll talk about that a little more when we get to the SharePoint part with some examples. But one is here, this is, again, it's all controlled by, your IT admin. It will adhere to labeling and policy guidelines and all that fun stuff. So you don't have to worry about it getting, out of control with that. Um, yeah, and then your IT admin could say who's going to have the ability to create agents, who's going to, the governance over those types of things. So IT admins don't have to necessarily worry about these. This one, in my opinion, is the biggest announcement from the whole Wave 2, is the SharePoint agent. So this, again, I sort of talked a little bit about it a second ago, but this is kind of getting into the weeds with it a little bit. Um, so what you're able to do as a user, again, basically you have to be a member of a site or have edit permissions in that site for this to do it. And again, admins can turn this on or off if they don't want to. Um, what this allows me to do is I can make my own agent on something I need, right? That for whatever I do for my work to, my day-to-day job. And here, so to kind of give you an example of what an agent is um, let's say that I have a SharePoint repository full of all of our, let's pretend that we're a laptop manufacturer, and I have, all the repository of like our cut sheets or our data points or whatever, right? Maybe everything is in there for all these different laptops. Well, I can go ahead and make an agent out of that data. So I can either select an entire SharePoint site, I can select a library or a folder in a library, or just pick like three documents, right? So I kind of can control what I want it to look at. And then from there, I make my own agent and I can give it, specific first prompts I want it to do. And then basically this is an agent that's living and breathing in there. And then as I'm adding and removing documents to there, it's updating this agent so that I can go and ask it. So to go back to that example of I'm a laptop manufacturer, I could be in sales and I could look at our technical documentation. I can make a Copilot agent out of that, and I can say later, okay, now give me like a 5 minute pitch on, off of this data basically that says like which has the best battery life, right? And it will go look through there and give you basically kind of a pitch of this is the best laptop you should go for battery life for X, Y, and Z, right? So it's going to allow your users to kind of build their own thing with it however they need to, kind of work Copilot. And another example would be think if you're doing like customer service or help desk, right? Where you're keeping all this customer, information in there or help desk information in there, then someone from the help desk can go make an agent off of it. And again, from there, they can again from select either the site, the library, the folder, or individual documents for that. And now they have basically a help desk agent that they can go and ask questions for, right? And say, how do I do X, Y, and Z or this, that, and the other. And all of those things will come into play. And the users are in control of creating their own agent. So and they are available for other folks to use within the site if they so need to. I will show a demo of this. Again, I think this is the biggest talk track of Wave 2. I will demo this and show you what this looks like. Um, Copilot Studio. So Copilot Studio is getting some, I don't want to say makeover. It's getting additional capabilities. So this is supposed to be coming in November, what I'm about to talk about. So basically what you're going to get is autonomous agents. So kind of think of Copilot Studio with kind of, Power Automate, right? To where there's some steps and gates and things like that and branches. So again, this is going to bring the ability for users to create, again, autonomous agents that will run in the background based off of, they'll respond to specific triggers. They'll have minimal, human intervention or some, in some cases, none, right? Where it will just work for it. Again, it can do data retrieval, it can process automate, it can, respond to queries for something. So just to give you a couple examples of what this could look like is imagine like a customer service scenario. Again, the, the agent will handle the routine inquiries, right? A customer asks like, oh, what's the status of this order or this ticket or whatever. It will automatically come back with, the information of here's the last information or here's the ticket number or here's what it's standing in or here's the shipping information, right? All that automatically. No one had to do it. So allow that to happen again from external and internal, right? So that you could have that happen. Another great example would be like HR onboarding, right? Today, I'm sure there's so many manual steps that go into HR onboarding. With Copilot, basically autonomous agents, is you can set all those things up so that all an HR manager would have to do is just tell it, right? So if this was all set up a certain way, if I was an HR manager, I could just go into the agent and say, start onboarding process for Jane Doe, right? And from there, the agent will go and send a welcome email to schedule an orientation meeting, assign mandatory training modules, set up the employee accounts and permissions, right? All of that just by telling the agent, hey, start new hire process for Jane Doe. All of those things went and happened when those would have been, separate, very time consuming things that would have happened. So again, coming next month. Um, I think this is big. I think this is also going to open up a lot of possibilities to what can be done and really kind of take Copilot to the next level with allowing some of these things to just automatically trigger for you in the background just by asking it. Another new one, again, this is out now. Now, the designer itself has been around for probably about 8-ish months, but you actually wasn't part of like your M365 Copilot that was actually out where you needed like a personal account to access it. Well, now it's actually part of Teams. I'll actually demo this today. But again, very cool. You can basically have AI create you any type of imagery you're looking for. Again, it can be, the details matter. You could tell it to be realistic or a storybook or surreal or 3D or minimal or cartoon, comic strip, all sorts of different things, and it will kind of generate an image of your liking. Off of that, it generally does four of them, and you can pick one that you want, or again, ask it again. Again, prompts matter here. It's all about the prompts, but I would say that about Copilot in general. It's all about the prompt. But the actual text I use here was I said create a digital illustration of a wolf up close using red and black complementary color palettes. And that's it. And this is what it did for me. So again, very cool. It took I don't know, 10 seconds. I'll actually demo this one also today. The next big one I would say that was announced that I think is important is Pages. So what is Pages? Again, one of the major complaints of folks that were using Copilot was Copilot's great, but how do I get other people to work on stuff with me, right? Copilot was kind of a me thing, right? Not an us thing. So here's where Pages comes in. So again, here as the example you see here, I'm in basically Teams chat or Biz chat, however you are looking at that from either the browser or if you're in the actual Teams client, and I can ask it something. And then now I have this ability or this new capability that says edit in Pages, as you see by the arrow there. And what this essentially does on the back end is creates you a loop, basically loop file and container. It's basically that's what it is. So if you are asking what is even loop, loop is it's like I said, it's been around for a little bit. Um, Microsoft keeps adding to it. If you've ever used something like Notion or you've used what's the other one? Obsidian. It's very similar to that, to where you could do that. But what it allows you to do is have these live, basically components that can be anywhere. So I can take this component and keep it in Loop, or I can put it in Word, or I can put it in PowerPoint, or I put it in an email, and it's all live. So meaning if I'm typing on it or making an entry into it in email, and you have it open in Loop or in Word, you will see those happen. So it's all connected pieces. But basically what's happening on the back end of this is once you've done this is this creates basically a loop page is basically a loop component. Where does that sit? Again, for kind of the IT admins out there, there is kind of what is called SharePoint embedded. And this has, again, been around since about January, February. But think of this as a headless, no GUI side of SharePoint. So it has kind of all the rules and parameters of SharePoint. So it basically takes this loop file and sticks it in this kind of back end area. But don't think like you can't get to it, right? All the things apply from purview, compliance, legal holds, e-discovery, multi-geo. If you're using multi-geo, it will actually stick it in the user preferred data location or PDL. Sensitive labels, DLP, full audits, all this stuff is it's still SharePoint. You just don't have a GUI to go to it, and that's basically where it will put it. And then there's containers, which is where this stores it in the SharePoint embedded. So basically, you're going to have this loop file that's stored on kind of the back end of the SharePoint embedded. But what this allows you to do is now share with people. As you see kind of on the right, you see basically the project plan, you see the little different colors, signaling different users are in here. So you basically have Copilot creating this loop page. Within the loop page, users can, commingle on this data, work together on this data, but also use Copilot within Loop itself. So it really brings collaboration together for users and teams that are trying to work on something and using Copilot for that. So big step. It's out now. Please use it. Copilot Academy. Again, this was also launched or announced, but kind of flew under the radar. Again, if you're in Teams, if you're using Teams, doesn't require. So Viva actually, there's like a free version and a paid version. A paid version gives you a lot more capabilities. This is in the free version, so you don't have to worry about that. But basically, what this allows you to do is it's leisurely again, if you're Copilot license, you will have access to this if your organization lets you. But again, it's curated by Microsoft. It's really awesome. It uh, you know, gets you a lot of training, self-training and whatnot. We also help with training too. So again, definitely reach out to us if you have some training needs. But yeah, that can absolutely help your new users get up to speed with that. Okay, Copilot for the mobile app, right? So I'm sure everybody's heard, or maybe not. Apple just announced they're kind of released their Apple Intelligence, but the only problem with that is that you have to have a new iPhone for it to take capabilities of it. You have to have this year's newest iPhone or one of last year's, I think, the Pro model. So it's kind of limiting it to just a couple of phones. Um, which is not cool, right? If you want to use AI on the go, again, no problem. Microsoft has your back. Basically, you have a mobile app for Android or iOS that allows you to, again, use on your device a dedicated app to just Copilot and Copilot things. Announced literally just a few hours ago. So now Copilot in Xcode. So Xcode is the development platform for Apple. So now Copilot is in there. So GitHub announced that today, this morning, as a matter of fact, just a few hours ago, that it is now in public preview, so that you can get all the Copilot goodness in your Apple ecosystem, which is awesome. All right, let's get to the demo. All right. So we're gonna start off with OneDrive. Like I said, we had a couple different announcements going on in here. So let's kind of show those off. So you'll notice a couple new things. We have a new Copilot, basically a little button here. So again, I can get actions on a single document, right? So this is a summary. So let's actually go ahead and just do a summarize for us. So again, I don't have to open the document up. I don't have to go to a SharePoint site or something like that and find it, possibly download it. But I can just do it right here in my OneDrive. I don't have to worry about going, elsewhere for it. And right here, I can get all that info. And again, I have all my references directly in the document that it's referencing, so I can go right to it. I can continue to ask more questions. That I want on it, just like you could in Copilot before, right? None of that has changed, but now I don't actually physically have to go into this document to do these things. So that's really cool. Okay, so now I'm going to take these two. Now I'll use this guy up here. So now we also have Copilot on our top menu here. But now I get this new action that says compare files. So again, I have two files. Again, one was updated. Someone didn't do versioning, which I don't like. But hey, they can still do that. And now I can see what was done, right? Because the versioning will help me do that. So, okay, so basically it gave me a rundown of each of the documents here. And you could see kind of the original one and then the updated one. And basically it just pulled out all this. And again, these are just documents with some financials on them. I'll open it up in a second so you can see what it looks like. But basically it's just kind of two columns of last year, this year's kind of numbers on here. And I just went in and made some updates on numbers of the others. So it's showing you what has changed from these two documents so that you can quickly say, okay, obviously versioning gets us this stuff, but if again the user was not versioning, we won't hold them against them. We will allow them to do that, but now we're able to go ahead and get both, what was said or what was changed or what was done in these two different documents. So super powerful. I think it's really exciting with that, and that is Copilot in OneDrive. Okay, so now let me get a PowerPoint started. All right, let me share my screen. Okay, so now we have PowerPoint. Again, this shouldn't look any different to you if you're using PowerPoint. Again, this looks slightly different from what it did a couple months ago, a little cleaner, in my opinion. But now we have, this. So we're presented with these new kind of controls here, right? Replace the presentation. Again, I'm not going to replace it because there's nothing here yet, but I'm going, that's actually what I'm going to do is replace it. I'm sorry. What I meant to say was create a presentation from a file. Again, we've done that. That's been around for day one since Copilot, where you can take Something like a speech. If you have a whole speech written out, you could say basically make a presentation from this, and it will go ahead and do that. It's actually one of the things I do in my demos. With that, I show basically just the financials of something, and I say go make a speech off this financials. It's literally just a page of numbers. It goes and makes an entire two-page speech in Word on that. I then feed that into my presentation, say create a presentation for my speech that I have to give, and then it does all of that, and it has all the footer notes, which is great. So I'm not going to do that, but today I'm going to do replace. So what you are looking at now is the basically the new creator of it. So you're seeing my narrative builder. Again, you see this kind of new screen here. So create a presentation about. Again, what I'm about to do is not new, but how it presents it next is very new and very powerful. So again, here I'm going to create a presentation about Apple's Vision Pro on how to use development with different frameworks like Reality Kit and AR Kit. Oh, sorry, I copy pasted that because I don't think you want to see me type all my spelling errors. All right. So one thing, if you've again used this feature previously of having it build it, you will notice this is way faster. To do this in the past would probably take 20-ish seconds to even get to this point. You'd see it like say it's building slides. So boom, we're here pretty quick, which is awesome. It's a whole lot faster than it was. Not that 20 seconds was an eternity, but still. But now if you notice, now I have again these sliders to where I can, drag these to different areas. Or again, I can go in here and just, have Copilot get rid of something or redo something. Maybe I didn't like it versus having to redo the entire thing or something that didn't quite just make sense. So let's just, again, I'm good with this. Let's say I'm going to go ahead and just let it create it for purpose of our demo. So now you're going to see it start to fill the panels with the slides. Sorry, something wrong. Of course it went wrong, right? Because we're doing a demo today. Let's give it a whirl again. So what you should see is it will start to create tiles for you, and you see the tiles start to change the data that's in them based off of as it's building it. Here we go. Try again. So again, you're going to see these tiles start to change of some of the content that's in them. Again, once brand manager, again, you're going to see some branding. It's going to pull from, again, some Creative Commons, but you're going to obviously have the ability to, at a later date, next month again, be able to use your organizational assets so that these can all use ones that you're approved. So again, this looks pretty cool, but let's actually kind of look what one of these looks like. Okay, so again, yep. And again, very cool is it gives you all the kind of the notes on each of it. Um, click through again, like I said, can use these different assets if you have different assets or company assets that you want to use. Again, very cool. And again, like I said, I work on this stuff, so I could tell you that this is accurate with what it's presented about ARKit and spatial computing. So very cool. Again, you could see very quickly I was able to get 23 you know slides up, and like I said, this saved me previously for when I failed to find my previous training deck on Power Platform, but Copilot came through and definitely helped me out. All right, now let's get into pull over this. Bear with me one moment. Okay, share my screen. All right, perfect. Now you're seeing my teams. Okay, great. So again, I just wanted to show quickly here um, the image kind of generator. I think it's kind of cool, visual creator. So I'm just going to go in here and basically, I want to paint mountain landscape, thick oil, bright colors, wide swirling strokes in postmodern style. I Google that. I don't even know what that means. Give it a few seconds and it will come up with basically 4 pictures for you to pick from. And there we go. So very cool. Again, it's the key is all about the prompt and the words you're kind of using in there and how you want them to, like I said, swirling, all those types of things. So it can give you some pretty cool looking imagery to use again in your SharePoint site or something like that that you might want to do. So very, very cool. Next, let's go into, again, I'm just going to use this because I already used it. Okay, so again, I have here ideas for a Copilot webinar. Oddly enough, we're on one right now. But again, so it presented back some things for me, right? But one thing I want you to quick note is, again, we have this edit in pages. Again, this is new as of maybe 2 weeks ago, I think it is. Previously, you were stuck with copy, right? So it would just take this copy and you would either paste it into a Teams chat or you would paste it into a Word document or however you want to do that. Um, so now when I do this, there it is. Now I have this little panel. I'll show you where we can actually get to it after the fact if you were to leave this. But again, now I have all of that fun stuff here, but now I can go and share it and bring people into basically this loop component and have them iterate, on these things, add comments, those types of things. So and again, they can use Copilot in there too. So it allows us to basically use collaboration with Copilot to get something done, which again, I think is very cool with that. So where does that kind of land after the fact? So when I'm going to go right here, uh, where is it? Recent ideas. So here it is. So now I am in Loop. Again, if you're on Windows, there is a dedicated app for this. If you are on iOS or if you're on Mac OS, you have to use a browser, but you can also get it to the browser via in Windows too, if you don't want to use the actual application. But again, this is Loop Loop components. You can do all sorts of different things in here. Like I said, it's a hybrid of a couple things. It's almost like a OneNote, but it's not OneNote. It's slightly different. But again, I can share this without users. I can have them come in, add their 2 cents. They can use Copilot directly in Loop here. Um, Again, brings that kind of sharing capability to everybody. So it's really cool. All right, last demo is, let me get to my SharePoint site, and there's a couple things I want to talk about or show here. Get that minimized real quick. And get this guy over here. Bear with me for 1 second. Get my monitors situated here. Okay. All right, let's share this out and let's talk about a few things. Okay, here we are. So now we are in SharePoint. So again, I created this fictitious little SharePoint site to talk about different things or do things in here. So a couple things I want you to take note of is, you're going to have this new Copilot icon here that's going to help with some things on the site. Now, again, I anticipate some additional capabilities coming to this. I know Microsoft has shown some of them in the past of where it's actually going to build some of the pages out for you based off of some information. I anticipate Ignite will kind of take the lid off of some of those things. But right now, let's look at Copilot agents within here. So I'm just going to go to my document library. I've already pre-made one, so we're going to look at it, but then we're going to make one together. That's how easy and fast it is. So here's my pre-made one. So a couple things are going on here is you will notice I have this dot copilot file here. So after you create one, it is going to lay one of these in here. It's kind of a configuration file. You don't have to worry about this thing at all. So don't think you have to know anything about it. You can open it up in like a code editor, like Visual Studio Code or something like that, and you'll see all the information in there, right? Of like the title of it and the image you gave it, all those fun things. If you're a code person, you can change it there. Or again, like most folks, just use the GUI to do that. But again, so what I have with this one is basically this is kind of a duties or a roles and responsibilities, right, for Graphic Design Institute, my fictitious company, right? So these are your design team responsibilities, some employee benefits. So maybe I'm a new employee here and I want to know what's going on here. Or what things I should know. So I can just go ahead and, like I said, we'll come back over here and open this guy up. So this is the Copilot for your entire site, but you will see all your agents are here. So since this is my onboarding one, I click that. Now I easily could have just clicked that and I would open this up right to there, but I'm just showing you a couple different things. Okay, so again, this is some standard stuff here. So I'm just going to pose the question in here of, you know, what are my design responsibilities? So again, it's not looking through Teams or email or OneDrive or other SharePoint sites or even any part of this SharePoint site. It's looking at just these two documents that I've told it to look at. So here we go. So it actually went into those documents and it pulled out what my design responsibilities are, laid out as the company policies are. So again, if I'm a new user or whatever, this helps. So again, you can think of kind of the capabilities or the strength in this of from an HR piece, or what I'm about to show next is if you're doing like resumes. So again, this kind of gives me the gist. I can ask it questions. This is just going to ask, it's going to look at these two documents as its data source, nothing more, nothing less. So it's going to be a very targeted Copilot experience for that. And again, I can think of so many use cases of where this will be relevant. So let's actually make one together. Show you how quick and easy this is. So I have my fictitious resumes that I have thrown in here. Um, so, um, we're gonna go create one ourselves. It's gonna be, again, to create one takes just a couple seconds. Um, but then we're going to have some talking about it. So I'm going to select all these guys, and you notice it says right here in the ribbon create Copilot agent. So I'm going to click that guy, and it just shows you, right? It's going to show you what is in scope, for this, what the sources are that it's using from this. So again, if I had more, there would be more here. If I had like just a site, because like I said, you could do an entire site, a, a library, a folder within that library, or just in this case, I'm picking 4 documents and that's that. So I can jump right to it and try it, or I can edit it. So I'm going to edit it. Now I've already supplied an image. If I wanted to customize it to a different image, I could. Um, Again, it called it a resume agent because that's what the name of the folder was. You can change the name of it right here. You can give it a better description than that. This is not available yet. Advanced, again, like I was saying earlier about that, how you could go a little bit in depth and get a little deeper than what just looking at these sources and that's it. If you want to use Copilot, that is not out yet. So when you click this, you get it's coming soon. So just to let you know, I again anticipate that will be something that will be talked about soon, at it, in the near future or at Ignite for sure. Sources, this is just again, if you need to modify this, right, come back after you've created this agent, maybe add some new documents, remove some documents to it, add a library, add a site, whatever. You're able to do that right here within here, and then behavior. So again, when you saw me open the other one up, right, when I was doing that for the design kind of roles and responsibilities, one, it had some pre-canned things out there, right? I didn't modify that. I left it exactly what it was. I think it actually said the exact same thing on the top. I think these were all the same, to be true. So this is again where you can start to change it and make it yours, right? Where I can go in here and I can say, I want my start again, this is my resume builder. Let's pretend that I'm an HR. I've created this HR, resume agent, and I'm going to constantly be adding and removing folks or resumes into this. But there might be some certain questions I want answered right away. So again, I don't necessarily have to look through all of them. I could just upload these, and I'm going to again, these are all design resumes. So just to let you know, so I'm just going to go ahead and save. So you can see I've made some pre-made or pre-canned ones, and I'm going to hit save, and it's done. It is there. And there it is. It's loading. and there's my resume agent. And as you see, it already started with the preset ones that I had up there. So again, if there's something that you do over and over again, you could imagine how this could go in like that. So again, I'll just click it. Which candidate has Adobe experience? Now, again, I know that all of them do from the resumes. So I'm going to do that guy. Okay, so we could see in there that who's got it, and it gives me kind of it pulls right out of the resume that specific Adobe experience that I might be looking for. But then I can also ask it questions, right? If I don't want to use the pre-canned one, who has the most experience in 3D? Okay, there we go. So it out of these four, it pulled the single candidate that had the most experience in 3D. So again, it's a very easy way to start to whittle these things down. Um, Again, as you saw, if I didn't modify the questions or if I didn't modify an image or anything like that, I could have gotten this Copilot agent up and running and working in a matter of, 3 seconds, if that. It probably would have, it took longer to pull all those documents in and hit try than not. So super powerful. This is the future, in my opinion, of Copilot. Wave 2 is this is the biggest announcement because this now lets your users have the ability to do the things that they've probably been asking to do, or that might have been an IT ticket or something like that. This gives the power to them to do these things, to create these things. They can share these things out. You can share these things out and put them in a Teams chat, and you could reference it like, "Hey, resume agent, blah 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 blah," right? Whatever you want to put in there. So it gives that ability to the users to do it and use it however they want. Again, all the same rules apply, like I talked about before. Um, any type of security, auditing, DLP, all that fun stuff is all pertinent here. It doesn't just because it's here doesn't mean it is lost or forgotten. So Um, that is all I had. I know we have 3 minutes left. Um, See if there's anybody had any questions, or if not, I can give you 3 minutes back. But like I said, some of these things are coming out. Some of them are out. Some of them will be coming out within, I would say, the next month. Again, Ignite is going to kind of blow the doors off of a lot of this stuff. So again, if you have any Copilot or other needs, definitely let us know. Reach out. We can help. The deck and the video is going to be posted, so you will get notification of that. So don't think what I showed here is forgotten, um, or if you're watching at a later date. So we're here to help. We can help with all your Copilot needs. Definitely reach out and let us know. If there's no further questions. All right. Everybody have a great day. Thank you for your time today.